Mm-hmm. That says live. I'm looking at YouTube, and I'm not seeing it pop up just yet. I think there's like a 15-second delay.
Yeah, I counted like 12 earlier, but I never know when it starts. Okay, all right, we're all good on YouTube.
All right, cool, awesome. So this is our test run. If people are joining us, I don't expect anyone to hop in, but you never know who might jump in. And if they do,
and see.
We will answer any questions that come through. And I don't really have much of a script. I did write down a couple ideas. Seems like there's a lot of news coming, and there's probably going to be even more news over the next 2 to 3 weeks. It's kind of hard to keep up with a lot of this stuff, but the big news today was the iRacing thing. What do you think about that?
And that's a living hell for me if I got to go through that again.
I really liked last year, though. Looking back, I do kind of miss it. It was I enjoyed watching your streams as you would go through all the practice stuff, and then looking at these different drivers practice. Also jumping into the various Twitches on a Friday night, watching sauced up Clint Boyer having races and listening to the banter back and forth between those drivers. It was awesome. And their whole premise is that we're going to do these races on Wednesday to kind of prep people for what to expect in the regular race, almost as a teaching experience, which I think that's going to be cool. But I mean, really, what I liked the most was watching the practice stuff on Twitch and listening to the different broadcasters break things down, watching the LR Junior stream. So we're not really going to have that this time since it's going to be kind of just the race. But I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, but it was fun in that moment.
It was fun, and I mean, it let people see a lot of how the drivers approach it. Like you said, Junior, Castle, they would stream on Twitch, and Castle was very, very technical. He would look at his wheel movement, his throttle input, and it really showed the things that these drivers really go over that we don't really hear much from the big broadcast. We normally just hear about, what's the crew chief doing? What's the team doing? But actually hearing how the drivers went through everything and seeing, and at least for me, because, I was in there most of the week watching them, really seeing how the drivers were able to get better throughout the session, throughout the week, and see how everybody was working together. It was oddly friendly and wholesome. I don't know if it's going to be that way this year since it'll be in the middle of the week and in the middle of the season. I don't know if anything's going to boil over to actual racing or if something's going to come from the actual racing into the sim race, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I think the coolest part was the stuff that really wasn't in the broadcast. So I'm not really psyched about the broadcast or anything, but mentioning Castle, we'll talk about this in a second, but he was clearly the best to watch. Him and Smithley was okay. He was entertaining at times, but from racing perspective, Castle really did break things down, was really working on a lot of stuff. Even though a lot of that, though, with Castle he was doing those road courses. And it was really like, breaking down what he was working on and all the strategy and all the practice he was putting in. But speaking of Castle, are you shocked to see him in a full-time Xfinity ride?
I'm shocked. I know we just talked about it a few weeks ago, and I know Castle had been using the money that he was getting from Twitch to look for a ride. So I'm assuming he got enough from Twitch over the last year to be able to afford that.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think so.
Because, I mean, this car is, as far as I know, it seems like it is pretty much all the JD sports cars are pay to play. And Little bought the car last year, it seemed like, for the most part. And it seems like Chastain as well. Chastain had some sponsorship, but he was paying to put that car on the grid for the last couple of years. So, he performed well in this car, not last year, but 2 years ago, a couple of times when he got opportunities at JD Motors. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah.
2 or 3, one of those.
2 years ago. He was fine in this car. I'm excited. Do you think they could make the playoffs?
I think he can. We just talked about how we think he is way more talent than a lot of the guys in this field. And I believe in him a lot more than I do Jordan Anderson, for example. I think Castle's going to come in and really impress a lot of people.
Well, the cool thing about him, though, and we'll see, and I would imagine he would do this, is he's going to be active, I would assume, on Twitch, practicing these races, building up the following. So there's going to be that added element of, we don't have Xfinity practice anymore. Mm-hmm. We could possibly look into these Landon Castle streams on Thursday afternoon, or looking at what he's doing on, a specific track, and maybe get an edge. Or do you think that's just going overboard?
No, I think that's very accurate, and it's the same reason why I think they brought back the Invitational Series, because I assume they're going to use that for a lot of the road courses later in the year. I know we have we know the first 4 at least. Like the first race is the Bristol Dirt, which I'm not really sure how much knowledge is going to be gained from that one. Nah. But I think the road courses, it'll help the drivers out a lot.
They'll get practice at the Bristol Dirt race, though. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit of a benefit, and I don't even know how much the iRacing really. I guess it helps them, but I don't know. I think that's going a little too far, but it will be nice to just get some insight and get some information on what he thinks is going to happen. Mm-hmm. So the other thing, I can't believe. I mean, maybe I was just completely wrong, or maybe the new schedule has been just such a boon for these teams. But how are all these new teams coming into existence? Did you foresee all these new So obviously Castle coming back, well, that's shocking. And Jordan Anderson, as you mentioned, he has his own team now, and I don't know if he's still doing the Truck Series or not, but to start a new team, and then you've got Big Machines got a new team, and I know that these cars kind of already existed, but not really. The 93 car wasn't running anywhere. I mean, it was out there, but this is a new team that's going to try to run a full season. And then you've got the 23 car now for Rayum is going to jump into the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I made my Xfinity preview back in early January for Patreon, because there's never any news in January. Pretty much, if anybody's going to run the season, they let people know at the end of last year in December. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna write this. I don't have to worry.
It's 2 weeks before the season, and all these cars are popping out of. What do you think's going on? How's this happening?
For
cheating your taxes, I don't.
I have no clue. I don't know. They're coming out of the woodworks left and right, and Is
the economy that good? Or are we just all it just doesn't make any sense.
Get a lot of that government assistance, man, because
I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not with these teams, and I don't know. Last time I checked, NASCAR was in a terrible spot, and then there was this global pandemic or something, and you would have thought that the teams would be in an even worse situation. But apparently they're just not. And there's more. What is the status of how many cars are they going to let into the field? Are they going back to the old rules, or are they just going to leave it expanded like we had last year? Because it seems like with all these new teams, they kind of ought to leave it expanded, especially if there isn't going to be qualifying. But I don't know what's the official word on that.
Well, see, Pop Chris had tweeted about that, and NASCAR hasn't even decided, right? I mean, it's January 26th. We go to Daytona in a little over 2 weeks, and they don't even know how many cars are going to make it. Apparently, Pop Chris said he would assume that the races that have practice, they would qualify and take the fastest cars. If they don't,
I'm going to tell you right now, I can pull up. Well, I don't know if I should pull this up.
I'll see if I can.
I could pull up I was looking at. I looked up NASCAR's kind of tentative unofficial schedule they've released for a couple weeks already to start out the first 7 or 8. I would pull it up with my NASCAR media thing. Actually, I'll pull it up on this other screen. See,
I should be able to send it to you because.
So on the NASCAR media thing, let me pull this up so I can I'll look at the first races coming up that have practice. And I looked at it earlier today, and I didn't see qualifying on them. So let me look. Schedules. All right. So the first weekend that has a practice is going to be, Daytona, but that doesn't count. We have qualifying for Daytona. But I don't think we have Let me look at this and see if we had qualifying from the lower series, though. I don't know if I remember seeing
I know we have Daytona 500
qualifying, but
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about the other ones.
I don't. So I'm looking here. It is. This is the tentative schedule. They haven't released this, so that's why I'm not pulling it up. But so I've got it's just for Cup. Wait, let me see. No, they do. They've got a truck qualifying on Friday, and they've got an Xfinity qualifying. So for Daytona, you will get qualifying for every race.
Okay.
So then let's see, Daytona Road Course, there isn't practice that time. Homestead didn't practice. Las Vegas didn't practice. Phoenix 1, I don't know if they're going to practice or not for that. I know they're practicing for Phoenix 2. They're not practicing for Phoenix 1. Atlanta, no practice. Martinsville, no practice. Yeah, so I can't really look at the other tracks. They don't have schedules. We only have schedules for tracks that have practice, for Daytona. And so Daytona does have qualifying for the Truck Series.
This whole thing is a mess. I don't know why we have to figure out this 2 weeks in advance. Like, I would hate to.
Yeah, what have they been doing? But the crazier thing is that, I mean, they've got to be. Like, you wouldn't start your team. You wouldn't start that kind of an investment if you didn't think you're going to make the races. So these teams have to have some sort of guarantee or some sort of inside knowledge that they're going to be able to make the field.
I would hope so. Let's go back and talk about MBM. In December, they were saying, hey, we need money. We need a ride. And I don't know if Carl Long was informed, but we got all these other teams with money. That makes MBM look even worse right now.
Well, the other thing is Morgan Shepherd's still kind of quiet, And you heard rumors like he was going to try to run races. I think there was a post about that, but you don't hear anything from him. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how because I think they've got more than 40 cars. I know they've got more than 38 cars, don't they?
They have.
How do you set the grid? Right. I mean,
let's see.
It's pretty unfair the way they rolled it out after COVID. I mean, it pretty much eliminated some people from ever having a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And if a team, let's say, you're on the outside looking in for Daytona, you didn't get any points that week, you're pretty much screwed moving forward. How do you ever break into that 38?
Let's see. Yesterday confirmed. This is just for the 3 series, but right now there's 45 for the Cup Series, which should go up. There's 42 for the Xfinity Series, which should go up. And right now there's 35 for the Truck Series. And those are all way more numbers than the numbers that we're going off of if they have qualifying. And I mean, like you just said, if we have a lot of new teams, is it just whoever signed up first?
Well, that doesn't count the part-time JGR car. Will be Ty Gibbs a couple times, probably Kyle Busch, Hamlin that adds another car on a given weekend. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, I like having more cars and trucks in the field. I mean, we say this every year for Daytona 500. Why don't they have 43 cars? They could, but they don't do it. Do you think they're going to go 43 cars at Daytona?
Yeah, well, they put themselves in a box for the Cup Series with the charters because you can't expand the field, otherwise you kill the value of the charters. And you obviously can't take any charters away, so it's always going to be those 4 guys just racing their way in for the other series.
But the Cup Series could care less about the value of the charters. The whole value of the charter is the whole Michael Waltrip scam, which was to get the charters pushed through and then to sell your team a couple years later. I mean, he knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew what his financials were. He knew he was done for. And the only thing he could have done is sold his garage and sold his cars. But then he creates this fake value out of this charter system, which he gets pushed through. That's all it is. It's just creating value out of nothing for these teams. So NASCAR doesn't have to, abide by that one bit. They can say, hey, we're expanding the field. Sorry. Your charter's worthless. It's freaking fiat. I mean, it really is. It's a piece of paper that they made up out of nowhere, and they created some sort of monopoly and created value. NASCAR could very easily just say, it's not good for us anymore. So
I wish they would. I wish they would, but I don't think they're that smart. Because, I mean, especially right now at the end of the Gen 6, if they were taking 43 cars, we'd have like 54 guys showing up this year because these cars are so cheap to buy right now.
Yeah, you're right, because they're just getting rid of it now because there's no value in it. You're going to get 1 year out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because, what are they going to do with these cars? You can't reuse them in the Xfinity Series. Or are they going to eventually end up in ARCA? I mean, do they even have a plan for that? Is it just, I'm sorry, you guys are screwed?
Yeah, I was looking at it, and the closest thing they have is to ARCA. I mean, I'm sure it'd be expensive, but I'm sure they could take the chassis and cut them up or whatever they need to do for the Xfinity Series. But it's certainly not as easy as it used to be of just selling it to a Xfinity team and them being able to just run it as is.
Which means, you think they're making, chassis-wise, car-wise, I guess probably Gibbs and SHR and Hendrick are still putting money into it. But if you're at, I don't know, Roush, and you know that this is all just going to get thrown away at the end of the year, are you really investing that much in new cars? Is JTG Daugherty doing that? Is Spire doing that? Spire's probably already got used equipment anyway.
I'd have
There's going to be some real clunkers out there.
It's two arguments to that. It's either you don't want to invest anymore because you're going to run the cars that you have right now, say at the speedways. If you're a Ricker guy and you just have a ton of these old cars, you don't really care if they get torn up. Or if you're like a smaller team, or say like Stenhouse's team, I assume they're not going to really try and buy any new cars. I don't see the value in them doing that. So do they want to try and save their cars throughout the season? I mean, that maybe I'm looking too much into that, but this whole situation of how drastically different the ARCA Series, Xfinity Series, the Cup Series is really hurting auto racing in general.
ARCA's garbage. We gotta fix that. Let's just look at the teams real quick, if I can pull this up, and just make some assumptions here. So I don't know if Roush really is going to. I guess they'll put some money into it. But if I was running Roush and seeing what has been going on, Jack Roush obviously knows they aren't winning this year. They're not winning a race this year.
Mm-hmm.
If I was him, I was probably already looking ahead to the Gen 6 anyway. So sorry, Chris Buescher, we don't have practice anyway. You're going out in a piece of junk all year long. Same with Newman. Who cares? Newman's only in that car because he can bring in sponsorship somewhat, and so he gets that ride. McDowell is gone. Those Front Row Motorsports, do you think that they're going to – there's no way. They don't have enough money to work on these cars for one season.
They don't have anything to lose. I like for Front Row, I would see them as a team that says, screw it. We could have the best cars we could ever have right now. We can buy them on the cheap from, say, maybe Penske, or I wouldn't say the motors, but probably the chassis. We can get them cheap from Penske right now because Penske doesn't want them. Penske just wants to get rid of them. I would maybe look at them being a team that could just say, hey, we're going to try and invest right now because we're not going to have a chance with a new car. It's going to be too expensive. We're not going to be able to catch up to the.
Do you think that's what they're going to do instead of looking towards the future? They just say, well, with everybody else cutting back, we can actually probably get some good equipment for cheap.
Yeah.
Because they're all just trying to cut. That's kind of an interesting angle. Where
kind of how Nice did with the trucks in 2019, where they just said, screw it, we're all in this year.
And someone tweeted me, I can't remember who it was. They had a partnership with GMS that year as well. So Nice was using GMS trucks. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to keep track of guys switching equipment around. And you follow that and you think, oh, well, they've got GMS equipment, so they must be good. And it worked out for Nice that year. But if you look at Stuart Friesen last year, we had Kyle Busch's old trucks. Mm-hmm. How did that work out for him? So much. It's really strange thing to try to figure out and analyze. If we look down, like Ross Chastain, who will be with Chip Ganassi, is Chip really? What do you think they're doing? I would. You're not winning. maybe Kurt does something, but I think you got to play the long game. And if you're hiring Ross Chastain, you're probably pinching pennies. You think?
Yeah, I think we're going to have the answer to this right out of the gate. Like the first 3 weeks, I think the speed that these guys have, front row, Chip, I think the cars that they show up those first 2-3 weeks after Daytona is the equipment they're going to be running. I don't see any drastic improvements in terms of how
What about
good.
Austin Dillon and Ty Reddick?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think they're going to be in that situation? You think RCR is still going to try to compete, or are they looking towards the future?
I think they compete because they showed more speed last year than they had the entire life of the Gen 6 right now since 2013.
Are we making too big of a deal about him having a couple good cars right before the playoffs and way over weighing this Texas race?
Well, I'm not even weighing. Let me see what I wrote.
He won at Texas because of the ridiculous what's-his-name caution.
Mm-hmm.
Who brought that thing out? I can't remember the guy's name. And I think it's like Quinn Half. I don't even know if I even say it right anymore. And then they stay out, and you can't pass anybody at Texas, and they win the race. But if you take that goofy win away, I know he had some decent races. The second place finish at Darlington. He ran up front for a good portion of that race. And again, at Richmond, he started up front and ran well. But the rest of the races are same old Ty Dillon that we've seen all season long or forever.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I wrote that Austin Dillon really only did well in races where strategy was a factor. So either races that went green to the end or had long green flag runs to where they just got off pit cycle, or they had a late yellow flag.
Well, what that is that stupid – I don't want to say stupid because I like the guy. AES Manis, is that what his name is? Why can't I find Freeze? I guess I got to go up to whatever. Don't care. The guy's got Row AI. He's designed the whole computer calculation.
Oh, yeah,
I know we make too big of a deal about it, but they have won races because of like that strategy call at Texas, not to take tires or take two tires, whatever it was. They won. They won the race, and then it worked for him when he won the Coca-Cola 600, and the same stupid computer algorithms helped Ryan Newman win a race.
It's things that are like, oh, if you take two tires, you'll be on a different strategy than people. Oh, if you kick a field goal here, it might not be the best decision. Maybe you should go for a touchdown. It's
an extra point instead of chasing points.
I feel like it's not really like an AI secret. It's just do what other people don't do.
But they don't, though. These crew chiefs always. But you know what, though? I give them a hard time and say, like, they never think outside the box. And then the race that pops in my mind is that Darlington truck race a couple years ago, or last year, where all three of the leaders pit. And everybody else is like, okay, you idiots. So the crew chiefs kind of are unconventional in that they take tires for overtime. And then the rest of the field, it's like, okay, you losers.
It seems that the crew chiefs that
they're just
it's so weird. Like the bigger the team you are, the more the crew chief doesn't use his head, and then the more underfunded or slower you are, the crew chiefs are like, well, I'm staying out. We're not gonna do this. We're not giving up this track position.
I mean, I've said this on the podcast before, and the crew chief should just simply be in charge of calling the race, calling the plays. Just because you're good at setting up the car and making adjustments to a car doesn't mean that you're good at deciding when to pit, how many tires to pit. That strategy should be left up to a completely different person. And I don't know why these teams haven't said, all right, this is going to be the guy who calls the race and makes the decisions. The crew chief will make setup changes. Like you have a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator, a head coach, different people who have different responsibilities. But instead in racing, they still just make your crew chief is kind of just doing everything all week, and then he's doing everything during the race. And how many times do we have to see crew chiefs make terrible decisions for these teams just never to learn this lesson? And when they do get it right, they just get lucky half the time.
Maybe they're just exhausted from working the entire week, working out, and then the last 10 laps of the race.
His job is to decide how many tires, and they'll make the decision based on historical precedent. They'll make the decision based on what the computer algorithm says, whatever they need to do it on. But like, why are you putting more stress on the crew chief? If he's thinking about 4 tires or 2 tires, well, he's not thinking about setup. He's not necessarily thinking about air pressure. He's not thinking about different ways they're going to offset the weight of the car, whatever you wanted to say. Like, I would rather him think about physics and setting the car up and making adjustments and not have to worry about timing and strategy. But you know what? They'd rather spend $100,000 on a guy that hits a wheel with the
impact.
Like, you can spend $100,000 on that dude, but you can't spend $100,000 on a guy who's going to make the decisions that help you win the race.
Well, no, they're too busy spending money on $5,000 shocks and then paying a shock specialist $80,000 a year. The budget can't afford someone making.
Yeah, well, we can't have a practice though. We can't.
Oh, yeah, we can't have a practice either.
We could probably practice if you idiots wouldn't have gotten into an arms race over tire changers. I'm shocked that they haven't just gotten rid of the pit stops altogether. Thought we were going in that direction. Seems like that's been paused. Which I don't mind. I get rid of it. It's just one less thing to analyze, one less thing to worry about, one less thing to just make you tilt. Mm-hmm. But, do you get any sort of excitement watching pit road?
I guess really before I got into DFS, I loved pit stops. I loved it. I loved being a part of it. And maybe it's because I did it at races, so I knew exactly what it felt like. But for this, and after watching the K&N series for years and how they did their pit stops to where, it was under like a 5-minute period, kind of like how ARCA does it now, or exactly how ARCA does it now, to where it's just, hey, we're going to pause the race for 5 minutes. Everybody come down. Everybody has 5 minutes to change tires, do whatever. And it's just fair to the teams. And
I didn't mind when the Xfinity and Truck Series did it a couple of times last year. I thought the rules were way too goofy. Like, if you got to come down once, you get 2 sets of tires. You got to come down a second time again. It was too hard to explain and to understand these different.
They start complicating everything way more than they need to. I don't know what is with NASCAR.
Leave the damn field. Let them fit. We're done with it. Because they're always worried that, oh no, someone's going to find a way to cheat the system. So we've got to put in like 5 different fail saves and a firewall to make sure that someone can't. Oh my god!
Or like, the damage clock. I mean, I feel like it's more dangerous now than it was when you could go. If you were involved in a wreck and you went in the garage.
Sometimes you qualify for the damage clock, and if you ever watch these race replays, like I think it was Kyle Busch at the Daytona Road Course race last year. He's are we on the damage clock, or are we okay? And they're not even sure, and they pull it into the garage, and apparently it's okay, and they fix it. Well, they don't fix it. He goes back out and wrecks again, but like the teams don't even know, are we on the damage clock or not? Is this qualified? Or who knows half the time?
These things should be black and white. It should be. This just baffles me why everything is so complicated, or the yellow line, and I'm shocked that NASCAR stood their ground on the yellow line, because last year Junior was like, we need to get rid of this thing.
Oh,
and we need to.
Give me more time.
But
what was the last race where it was? I can't even remember. Where was it that it really hit the fan?
It was last year's 500. Ross Chastain blocked.
No, but they didn't. I remember that. Like, that was like the 13th wreck that Ross Chastain started. But there was something else, wasn't there? Later on in the season where it came up again.
Let's see. Sauter lost a race because he passed under it.
That was 2 years ago.
That was What happened last year?
What was it? Who was it that made them? It had to have been. So we had the stupid, the Texas Xfinity race and the Texas Cup race where you had the merge line, which for the first time ever was enforced. That like they nailed Tyler Reddick was going to win that race, and they basically kneecapped him.
Well, it was Kyle Busch, wasn't it?
And then they nail Eric Almirola the very next day for the same thing because they have to nail somebody to make it look like no, we've always been calling this. See, we did 2 in a row.
Oh, it was Allgaier in the Xfinity race. Yeah.
They nailed Allgaier, and then the next day they nailed Eric Almirola just to make sure that people knew, like, no, this is a rule. We've always enforced it. No, you haven't. You made it up. And then they're like, well, no, we always show them this stupid video. We're always warned. And the driver said, yeah, you always warn a bunch of stuff, and you never enforce any of it. It has to be a Talladega or a Daytona, doesn't it? Because that's the only one where the lines matter. Even though it probably should matter at some of these other tracks.
Last year, I guess the final Talladega race when Hamlin avoided the wreck or the half wreck out of 4 and went on the apron, and they were like, "Oh no, that's good. He was avoiding the wreck." Yeah,
that was it. It was at the end of the race because was that Talladega or Daytona?
Talladega. I have it on my YouTube channel.
Right, they were. Yeah. Like you didn't know who finished where. Hamlin ends up winning. He was cool. They let him slide. Who was it that ended up losing his finish at the very end?
It was DiBenedetto.
He almost wins the race.
Yes.
And he's like, "Oh man, we almost won." And they're like, "Oh, sorry, man. Actually, you finished 30th."
Oh, he looked like he wanted to cry, man. Like, and then he zoom in on it, like it's a TMZ moment.
Because he thought, like, "Oh, I might win this. I might win this." No. Not only we're going to bend the rules for Denny Hamlin, but we're also going to send you to the back.
Yeah.
He's sitting there, like, waiting, like, maybe. Like, no. This is not going to.
What was it before that? The restart box. Remember when everybody just forgot how to restart a race and they had to get a sponsor on the restart box so everybody knew where to start the race?
Yes. Yeah. You can't start early. You can't, like, that makes me think of iRacing. If you remember those races where William Byron was winning, once he got to the front, it was over. Because if anyone out there's playing iRacing, you know you have to do this unless you're a sucker if you don't. It's that you go as soon as you want. You don't need to wait for the green, and it's best that you just get away from the mayhem. And you would see William Byron every time, like they would come out of turn 4. Oh, there's Byron, he's gone.
Everybody else is waiting.
I mean, we're not talking about jumping the Starr. I mean, it's the pace car is barely turned off, and he's just
gone.
But he knows, like, that's what you need to do most of the time. Sometimes you get in some fields in iRacing, you don't necessarily need to do that, and you can be a little bit more respectful. I imagine in the A class and B class, people are a little better about it, but all the other ones down lower, like there's no real point in kind of waiting and letting everybody line up. You don't really want to let people line up because half the time they can't line up. Mm-hmm. The more time that you wait to start a race, you're just asking for someone to cause a crash in the back or some lunatic. Mm-hmm. You just got to go.
Maybe iRacing really is a simulation of real life because they,
Another thing, it looks like Phil's not going to do the 3 Series League. I'm disappointed. Did you see that?
I messaged him about that. I talked to him about doing a one and done because that'd probably be easier for him to focus on. But I didn't see that he announced that he wasn't doing it.
There's another website. I don't know what they're called. It was they do golf, I guess, something else. They're trying to take their golf style format into NASCAR, but it's not covering the 3 Series. It's complicated. It's not. But it's dead.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed. I thought it would be fun, but I also understand that it's going to be a lot more work than he wanted to do. So not that, or anyone really wants, I wouldn't do it. It's cool. It's fun. So if anyone else thinks that pick that up, I would be interested in it. I wouldn't be interested in participating, but I don't want to. I want to be able to pick all 3 series, however you can make that work. And like
I was thinking if I was going to do it, which I don't, because I got enough stuff to do this year. Yeah. But if I was going to do it, I'd probably do it by the points that they get at the end of the race. So if you get stage points, if however you finish,
God, don't do stage points.
you have to. Otherwise, it's going to be completely unfair. If somebody grabs the top dog in each series or somehow gets a stacked team, it's over. Although people have messaged me and talked to me about, DraftKings should add stage points, and I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with that.
I don't talk about this very often, but they were going to.
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't as well. It was in the. I remember a couple people. If you remember, I think it was 2017 or whatever. They had graphics already added on, and people are like, "What are these graphics?" Like you could see the function of the stage things, and people were asking, like, "Oh, it's nothing," because I wasn't supposed to say anything, but they were considering it, and they decided not to do it, which I'm really glad they didn't.
That would have been really
maybe it would have worked. I don't know.
I don't think so.
But
that would have thrown just another monkey wrench into this that we can't really predict, and I don't really like things like that.
Well, I think I wouldn't say it's never going to happen. If this were ever to get bigger, I don't think DraftKings NASCAR's ever going to get that big. But if it did, you would need a way to eliminate the possibility of a bunch of ties. You got to have more points coming in. Just like when they expanded to 6 drivers and they added, what was it that they added? Because they got rid of pass differential. They got rid of pass differential, which was the goofiest stat. 6 drivers. I don't know if they had anything else, but
I don't know. That's before my time because I came in. Let's see, I'm aging myself here. Let's see. I turned 18 in either 2017 or 16. Okay. So before that, I don't know.
It was after the New Hampshire race in 2015. They moved to 6 drivers because they had eliminated pass differential points, and they needed something to add another scoring metric so that people wouldn't all end up in the same point total. So the thing is, we've seen this when you expand the field, you are going to end up with people kind of in the same spot. So how do you separate them? One of the ways that they could do that would be to add those stage points, to add some more points here or there, and that would lead to one guy winning more often.
I think it'd be easier. That is kind of straightforward to say, but I think it'd be easier to determine who at least gets stage points and not really who gets the most. But I think that was kind of obvious.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it, but
I don't like stage points in real life anyway.
I don't know anyone that pays attention to them. Other than Steve Letarte. He's the only guy. Well, remember these stage points pay. No, they don't. You get a point that does not mean anything for the rest of the season. It almost means absolutely nothing.
They only care because of that NBC fantasy NASCAR stuff, which I don't pay any attention to.
I would love to see them actually pay drivers for stage points if they were to give cash and give money to them for finishing. You might see some different strategies. Like if I don't even know though. Like, what's it even matter? It's not like Chris Buescher has an opportunity. Like, well, if I just do this, you're not going to get stage points, Chris Buescher, regardless.
Well, if you look at Ty Dillon, he's qualified for the Clash because he won a stage somehow, some way. He won it last year.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's probably because it was I'm just guessing. I think it was Bristol actually. The end of the stage, he stayed out and was able to hold on to a position. Now, I'm guessing. I'm not sure that was it, but I think that it was something like that. I'm annoyed that Daytona has practice. We only get practice at a couple tracks, and one of the few places we do get it is the most worthless practice of all. It's fun to watch, I guess, when they wreck the cars. It's an exciting Daytona. There's been some exciting Daytona practices. Mm-hmm. But from a DFS analytics standpoint, it's worthless. It's dumb. Are you gonna watch? I'll probably watch. Well, I might not. Yeah, I probably will.
You will, because I will. I'm getting Hulu Live again just to watch Race Hub, so I'm sure you'll watch
That's going to be. So NBC Sports, when does that die? Is that at the end of the year, or
that's at the end of the Olympics?
And so the races are going to go to where?
They're going to go to USA, and I don't remember the other one.
And they did that a couple of years ago. What, Watkins Glen or something was on USA during the Olympics.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really even think about that. That NBCSN is just dead. Like, if anything, that was a better channel than FS1. I feel like that got more views and was probably the best sports channel there is. It's weird that one's the first to go.
NBC is doing some strange stuff. Again, I don't understand what's going on with these businesses and corporations. I don't know if they are running the world or if they're going bankrupt.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. When you look at NBC and you see that they shut down NBCSN, like, oh, well, they're screwed. Or like, oh, no, this is just they're pushing. But then you see days later that they've bought the WWE and they're moving the whole WWE network to Peacock. I don't know if you saw that.
No, yeah, I saw it. And I'm
so the rumor was before that NBC wanted practice, and maybe they're going to get it eventually, but they wanted practice because their plan was to do what they do with IndyCar, which I think the NBC Gold thing, but basically they're going to move all practices onto Peacock. And so if you wanted to watch practice, you had to pay for that service.
Well, what's really dumb is because obviously I'm gonna have Hulu Live TV to watch Race Hub, like I just said, but all the races are streamed not even on sketchy sites like this. Some of them are on YouTube, some of them are on Twitch. The whole IndyCar practices, which was supposed to be on Peacock, they only have like 10,000 subscribers. And more people are watching that for free on Twitch than they are on their own service. I mean, it's weird.
Well, here's the sad thing. Even when we had practice and they had broadcast teams at the tracks, like some of these times they wouldn't even put the freaking truck practice on the internet. You remember those times where they would have a truck practice at 9 a.m. and there's just zero coverage whatsoever? That was embarrassing. But
yeah, it was this.
I mean, remember, well, it was 2 years ago where the network's like, "Man, we're not even going to cover it," and they just put it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, with the Motor Racing Network audio. Yeah, it wasn't even.
They didn't even give us the MRN audio.
Yeah,
it was 2019. Yeah. It was Fox that did this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not even going to waste our time. But we'll let you guys watch it on YouTube. And then they put it on there, and it was just dead silent. I think they might have put some track noise, and then eventually, after people complained, they put on the MRN guys, which they were pretty cool. They were like, they really enjoyed their job, and they like racing, and they just talked the whole hour, and they would get drivers on if they could, and it was pretty entertaining. And then, well, now we don't even have practice at all.
It's because people kept getting mad because they would either have practice during Colin Cowherd, and I mean I like the show, but I can't imagine people just be like, oh, I hate FS1. They took Colin off. I can't listen to him. They have these stupid truck practices. I'm gonna unplug my cable, put him back on. I don't want to see this practice. Like,
there's enough of those talking head TV shows.
Yeah,
I don't need any more of those. But whatever. I mean, obviously they must be getting better ratings.
Sadly,
I hope when practice comes back, they at least have a streaming option. I would buy it.
I would too. Or like I commented on Mav TV's coverage a couple days ago that they have better coverage on like a 16th of the budget that these big networks have.
Yeah, Fox doesn't know what they're doing. They fired everybody before the season began anyway. They were already making cuts, and I don't even know. Like, I don't even. I can't remember if they even went to the broadcast teams ever went to the races last year. Did they? Did they ever go to the stadiums or the tracks?
I think when they were at Charlotte, but that was about it.
I don't think they're gonna. I imagine they're gonna do remote. I mean, they were already doing that anyway. Those truck races, and they would pretend that they were there.
I don't like when they pretend. Just be honest. Be like, oh, I'm watching this. I'm watching the TV screen.
You guys are in Charlotte. The race is in Iowa. Stop.
Yeah.
But anyway, so schedule-wise for doing, I'm thinking we would do these like Sunday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? Does that sound about right?
That'd be good. I'll see what other what people think is a good time, because I don't want to step on anybody else's live show. There's not a whole lot of them, but I don't want to do it up to lock. I don't know about you. I'd rather do it, in an hour before.
Morning is better for me. Morning.
Oh yeah, the races are in the afternoon. I totally forgot about that.
What's that?
Almost all the races are starting late in the afternoon. We have like no noon start times anymore.
It don't exist anymore. It's 3 o'clock or later. Which I'm not gonna go my grandpa ranting about that either, but hate it. Hate it.
How many times do you think we're gonna race on Monday this year?
I don't know. It's hard to say. How many times did we do it last year? A couple times? I don't know.
It had to be way more. We had so many rain delays, especially to start the season off.
Yeah, I think Sunday morning though would be, but I don't know when other people are doing stuff. So you're right. I don't really want to cut in on anybody's toes, but
I feel like most of the people who do a NASCAR live stream do it up till lock or like an hour before. And if they're doing that at noon, we could do it in the morning, say like 9-10 your time.
Yeah, give some people some time to watch the recording so that you get a little bit more leg. And if they want to ask direct questions, then they'll just have to make sure that they're up.
And there's not going to be any real news other than someone going to the back of the field, which I'm not worried about this year anyway.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, technically you could record this show on a Wednesday or Thursday. I mean, but it's just a matter of people aren't building lineups on Wednesday and Thursday. So let me see some of this Toby. So we got Landon Castles in the car. Oh, I closed it off the screen. Whatever. Got a couple new cars. What do you got? Anything DFS wise?
Let me look real quick.
Yeah, we got this spreadsheet on the screen. We haven't really talked about it. I just don't even know what really matters to look at right now. I guess you got the road course coming up in a couple weeks. And one of the nice things with the road course is we can pull the lap data from the Clash race, and then you'll be able to use that for week 2. It's a little bit, it's at the very least a piece of information to analyze. I don't know how valuable it is. You may be better off just looking at the Daytona road course info from last year. And then again, we don't know what setup they're going to run. They might use a completely different setup for the Clash race so that teams can't really use much of the data. Don't know.
I am glad that the Clash is only 35 laps, because I was really worried it was going to be like a 70-lap race. So at least that's going to go by quick.
I think it'll go by really quick. Unless NASCAR tries to. I think they want it to go quick. So what's a Tuesday night race? I'm kind of surprised. I didn't know if they were going to be able to have enough lighting on the infield portion. I know that they can make it work in the sports cars, but I think the sports cars have lights. I didn't know that they could do that for. They must be bringing in extra lighting, I guess.
Yeah, I think they're bringing in extra generators. Well, let's talk about that real quick, because that race is 35 laps. So I don't think, unless Elliott starts first, I don't think I'm going to chase fast laps or laps led at all. Maybe one guy. But
well, so to do the math, 35 laps, 35. 35 laps times 5. So 8.75 laps led points. It's not a lot. I mean, that's a driver goes from 10th to the 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to be 17.5. Fast laps are going to be kind of unique. But the thing is, I would say there's going to end up with one hog, really.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see the guy that leads gets 4 of those, ends up with about 10 of those.
Let's see. I
mean, there could be a scenario where 2 guys score, split the difference here. But I doubt it. If I were to build, I would assume you get 1 guy that ends up with about 14.
Mm-hmm.
I would build around 1 hog. I don't know what will we have as a reference point. We can look at the first Daytona road course race. And so how many laps was that? It's 44.75.
Actually, let me look at the laps for that race and see how many people switched in the top 20.
16.25 times 4. There were 65 laps, so it's only half. And so in a twice the length Daytona road course race, you had an optimal lineup that only had 1 hog. And Truex, who now he had to deal with various issues during the race. A lot of bad luck. We talked about that in the last podcast. But you get an up lineup just him. And then you had big place differential. I mean, you could very well see these. Now, the question, though, is the first question I would have is, can we see these place differential guys come through again? Because you're not going to have stage games. Chris Buescher clearly played stage games. McDowell is a good road course racer, so yeah, maybe. I don't think he's going to be running. Bowman was a very interesting race. Jimmy Johnson just had a great race. So,
well, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the top 20 in the Daytona road course race.
Mm-hmm.
Their lap by lap position, which you can find at his site, racefortheprize.com. It's free this year. I put a filter on the starting positions, and I'm looking at how the top 20 raced, of how who changed positions and who didn't. Seeing if we can see anything from this, because the guys who raced at the Daytona road course race, the guys who started up front were the faster cars. We're going to pretty much have those fastest cars in this Clash race. I really want to see what kind of advantage.
So definitely see in the Clash really good cars starting in the back, because it's going to be set randomly. So my fear is that there's going to be absolute chalk, and the winning lineup. I mean, think about it. In the past, the Clash lineup set randomly. You still stack guys in the back, but anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, I mean, you could get Chase Elliott could start 20th.
That's a play.
I mean, it's a great chance. I mean, obviously, when we look at this Daytona race, where these fast cars who finished up front, for the most part, aside from Chris Buescher, who plays stage games, and you can see it on here, the stage games that he plays. But for the most part, these guys who finish up front started up front, and they started up front because the grid was set by points post-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
The fast cars started up front, the fast cars finished there. In the Clash, there's going to be it's just going to be massive chalk.
Let me see here.
You've got, there's a 50% chance that Chase Elliott starts 10th or further back. And Chase Elliott starting 10th or further back at a road course where there's only 35 laps seems like at least a 60% play, maybe even 75% play. Now, what's DraftKings do? Because they're going to know this. Well, they might not know the starting grid. That's another thing. When are we going to do a draw? Like, the Clash typically is a draw the night before.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's typically the night before, so if that's the it has to be.
We're not going to know. The salaries will already be out, so DraftKings won't be able to say, "Ooh, Chase Elliott starting 14th. We got to make him $14,000." They can't do that. There's
Elliott should already be 1,200 because I'm saying this right now. Anybody watch? I'm playing one lineup during the Clash. I'm not going to invest any money in this race. I'm saving all that for the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, Daytona 500. I don't want to waste my time with this race because, as we're talking about, it's going to be massive chalk. But I would imagine Chase Elliott is already going to be the most expensive because he's been dominating the road courses. But let's see. There's 24 guys eligible. Let me look at the fast drivers who could either lead laps if they start up front or at least be fast. So we have Blaney, we have Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Hamlin, Harvick, Keselowski, Logano, Truex. Those are the only guys that I see that are worth any salt.
Well, I think I'm just chasing place differentials right out the. Mm-hmm. I might take one guy who can lead laps, but that guy's going to be the best guy starting in the top. I don't know, 3, 4, 5. So, I mean, easily I can pick my lap leader. It's going to be a guy starting up front, and it's going to be a good car up front. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be that hard. And I can probably vary my lineups with 2 different guys. I can say, all right, here's the top 4 cars starting up front. He's got the 2 best. I'll just build lineups with this guy. Say it's Chase Elliott up front, and we've got lineups with Truex starting up front. And so then my other 5 spots, I just take the good guys starting, I don't know, 8th or deeper. Because it's all going to be place differential.
Well, let's see if. Let's say we're gonna have a chalky optimal lineup, but let's say if we're getting different, do you do 4 chalk drivers or 5, and then your one driver is the worst play on the slate?
Well, I think they're going to force you with pricing. If I'm at DraftKings, I'm just pricing everybody up so that you have to take just a crap punt that you don't like. So then it's going to come down to, I don't know if it's Ty Dillon or whoever that's cheap and is in a terrible spot. Ty Dillon's starting 5th, Mm-hmm. It goes backwards. But his is 17 points is just a little bit better than whoever, Ricky. Is Stenhouse in this thing? I don't even know if Stenhouse is in it.
Here, I'll send you the okay, let's say Newman starts first.
No. But I mean, it could end up being him as it's the guy. If you're DraftKings, what do? I think you have to price everyone up. And I mean, you obviously can't make it crazy, but
it's going to be a mess. I'm already disappointed. My excitement is gone. I'm looking forward to the tools.
It is disappointing, isn't it? Because there's not very many laps. Fast laps led may be completely insignificant.
So I see.
The hope is, and this could happen, is you get giant wreck going into turn 1, or you get that crazy nonsense that happens going into the infield. It's a pretty good race. It delivered a pretty good race. I think it's a decent racetrack, so that's fine. I think that's the only way you shake things up. And if that's the case, the only way we shake it up is if there's a wreck, well, then you play guys in the back. What's the scenario where you get away with not playing guys in the back? It needs to be a really boring race, and you need how does it even?
You need fast guys to start up front. Okay, so
you got to have all the fast guys starting up front, but you can't afford all those guys.
And it's a glorified practice. If it goes green to the end, and some of the teams show up and be like, hey, we're not going to compete, we're going to use this as practice, they might be horribly off pace, and we don't even know going into the race.
Do you only have the private chat loaded? Do you have a chat loaded?
Yeah, it's on.
All I can see is private chat. Oh, there are comments of people watching?
Yeah, I've been asking questions.
Oh my goodness. I've been sitting here looking at the private chat, and I just realized that, there's a comments thing.
Yeah. You can tell we're.
I can't get the view because I have it on full screen,
Okay.
so I couldn't freeze it. And like, this guy is making a spreadsheet. He doesn't even know how to use a spreadsheet. I know. I got to turn.
I thought you were reading that and you were just ignoring it.
The reason why I couldn't is because I got it on full screen.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah, I know. I thought that I could right-click freeze though. You can't right-click freeze. But anyway.
Yeah. So that the Clash is.
You got to put the questions up on. There's not really any questions. You can put those on, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to do that. At least that's what
I thought you were reading the show. We'll get all that squared away when the season comes around. Practice. This is why we're doing this. Yeah.
We missed that. That stuff was on there.
Yeah. Let's see that. Yeah, the Clash is just. Yeah.
Wait. Abnormally distributed says that Decker is with Carl Long. What is this? Did I miss that one too? I didn't see that anywhere.
I don't think that's accurate.
I will hope that's true. I thought she was still doing a couple races with Nice.
Let's see. She has nothing other than
Carl Long. Is she going to be Xfinity now?
Wait, what?
I hope so, man. How many times?
Wait. Wait.
I play her way too much.
Maybe I haven't looked at.
Anyone who knows, and I'm pretty honest about it. The spreadsheet, like, look, the truck's not that bad. If she just doesn't screw up, you're going to be fine. And then, of course, she screws up every time. So, I think the last time that she burned me before she got, I think she got COVID last year, or she had those dizzy spells or whatever. I think she had COVID and she had some other thing.
She had a lot go on. Yeah, I don't think she's with
the Daytona road course race in the trucks, and I thought she would do better because she had actually run the race before and was halfway decent in the Grand Am series, but no, she wrecked at the end.
Oh, let me look here. What is this?
No way.
No, it's what are you looking at, driver? What are you seeing, man?
Does she really have the logo? Pull it up.
Let's see.
I would do it on mine, but if you get a link, send me the link. But I don't want to pull up Twitter. God knows what pops up.
I know. I'm terrified. I keep getting terrified. That's why I'm like, please put yours on there.
But not putting Twitter on the screen. I don't even want to know it's going to stream up and pop up.
But I don't see nothing, driver. I don't know what you're seeing, buddy boy.
I hope so. She's not going away. Whatever happened to her sisters? Why don't her sisters ever get to race anymore?
I didn't even know she had sisters.
Claire Decker, and then I think she has another one.
Oh, okay. Wait. What do you think about Derek Cope running the 500?
Does he get a locked-in spot?
Yes, he's locked in.
That's the thing. When I thought about that, like, wait a second. There's only so many spots available, and it's really tight this year. And Derek Cope walks and like, oh, I'm going to take one. Like, wait a second. You've got all these new teams. You got Austin Cindric. You got, how many people have to race into this thing? Austin Cindric, Dylan doesn't have a spot guaranteed. I don't know if Gaughan's racing. I wouldn't be surprised to see him climb out of the grave and Undertaker back into this one. But, yeah, I guess Cope just gets to steal a spot then. Mm-hmm. How fair is that?
That's just how the charter system's broken. I think
they do 43 cars.
They got to do, but they're not. I think he wrecks because his last race that he did was like 2012 or 2011, and it was in the duel. He didn't make it. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier today. His last plate track was at Talladega, I think in like 2008 or 9, and he only did 9 laps.
All right, let's check out Natalie Decker's. So she's taking photos. That's Nice. I can't quite make out this logo. Can you? Let's look. How recent is that? They were doing photo shoots, I think, a couple weeks ago for the upcoming season.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's look. I don't want to zoom in too much, but start figuring out like we're perverts here. So just trying to figure out the logos. So she's running for these, right?
It's fast cash. Let me look because it says crash. No, because it has Nice on the on her arm because that's her truck.
Yeah, it's a truck.
Yeah, that's a truck.
I'm not thinking. I can't tell what kind of logo is this. Chevy, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, it's a Chevy. Yeah, I don't. She's not going to MBM. There's no way. There's no way.
Well, we got to check out his Facebook, but apparently she is. What's this? Racing against Clint Boyer in an online race at Eldora. Guess we missed that. That was a thing, huh? I should have watched that. She fished P5. Pull that out.
Oh yeah, that's true. Casey just brought up that I forgot that they had penalized. This is at Talladega with the yellow line. They had penalized Chase Elliott for going under the yellow, and then they took that away, and then they DQ'd Matt for going under the yellow.
Hamlin didn't get penalized either.
No.
Hamlin won, didn't he?
Yeah, Hamlin won.
And Hamlin clearly went below the line, but they ruled that it was okay when he did it.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay when we do it. Gotta get rid of the line.
Yeah, it's
no rules. Just go for it.
It's a bad rule. And people think that they're going to try and enter in the apron or on the apron in the corners. These guys don't want to die, okay? They're not going to be doing that type of stuff.
I don't know about Ryan Newman. He may not.
Oh, I was cracking up so much when you talked about him in your podcast.
I don't know what he's doing out there.
He's crazy. That poor guy.
I got to rethink the whole line thing, though. I got to watch those races and watch the end. There's so much that happens at the end, and there has to have been some more issues with people blocking or going below where people have been penalized. Or I feel like earlier in the race, it came up too. I think it kept coming up in the race. Remember where they was like setting the stage for it? It happened. I want to say that someone passed and then gave a spot back or didn't give a spot back and had to – I remember them talking about it during the entire race, and then at the very end it becomes the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm sure we could probably Google it, but I don't really want to do that.
Well, it happens every time. Every time we go to a plate track, whether it's Truck Series, Xfinity. Well, I mean, they can't even lock bumpers in the Truck and Xfinity Series. I think that's crap that both drivers get penalized for it. Like if you guys lock bumpers, they penalize the car ahead of doing it. Like it should be the guy behind just getting penalized.
She doesn't know what she's doing in 2021. Could be Carl Long.
She doesn't have that money.
How much is she paying to be in Nice? Like she didn't buy the cheapest truck out there. I think they do have money.
Well, she is an Instagram influencer, so maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm looking at this. Let's see. Let me look at some tweets and see if I can see something. Yeah, Kaz Grall is also going to try to run, isn't he? Mm-hmm. The Daytona 500. Sorry, Derek Cook took your spot. Yeah, she seems to be all over Twitch. Uh-oh. You got some tweets with her and Natty Light. Wait, what? What is this? She has a... What? We'll put this on the screen. What do you think about that?
Oh, man.
Natty D, brewed in America since 1997. 110 pounds. Do we really need to know how much she weighs?
Did you? Oh, that's strange. Did you? There's
110 pounds.
There's a rumor that some gas stations put up Brad Keselowski pictures too early, and they have him in a natural light paint scheme,
really?
Which is a Miller brand.
Is it? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Is it? I guess so. Natural Light.
This is so. I can't think of a worse beer than a Natty than this. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, well, once upon a time, I attended one of the #1 party schools in the nation, and so Natural Light was very prevalent on that campus of that university. So I'm familiar with the Natural Light logo. I can't believe she's got a natty. I don't know. I might buy that.
Please don't. Or if you do, you got to wear it on here. There's no way you get in that.
Look at the other one. Paint it. What's that mean? I don't understand. Am I missing something?
Hey, Ace. There's Ace for you.
What's that? Yeah, I know. Cheap sweater too, man. This Gildan. I've got some Gildan socks, but those are cheap hoodies. Come on, Natalie. I don't know. I might get that Natty D sweater.
Get that and a Ross Chastain hat. You're all set.
I don't want that watermelon crap. Get out of here with that. Stupid. I mean, she is all over Twitch doing online racing.
And it's.
I gotta get in on this.
I can't understand
doing this influencer Instagram thing.
It's.
You can probably get her on your podcast. You gotta give her a shout out. She would do it.
She probably would because she's everywhere.
I guarantee she would.
No, I don't want to turn into those NASCAR YouTubers. Okay,
whatever. They're reaching a new audience. They're bringing in millennials and Zoomers, and it's cool. It's good.
paint the wall.
I don't want to be one of those old guys that really hates them. They get a lot of grief from traditional media and fans.
Yeah.
I don't know about this Carl Long thing, but we'll see what happens. I got to jump on my race and see if I can race against Decker. She's got the big 37-inch widescreen, though. Like William Byron. All right. Oh, wait. Here we go. This looks good. This will be interesting. Let me see. What did she write? I don't know. This was her announcement. She tested positive for COVID. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking at too much Nida Decker now.
Okay. So I played Cody Vanderwall at the start of last year, and I played him at the end of last year.
Yeah, I learned that. There were a couple times it actually worked, and he had a couple good races. Now the entire field wrecked out, but he had a couple races. Let me look it up. Do you remember the weekends where he was optimal? You want to take any guesses?
I'm gonna guess Texas, the fall Texas race.
Man, that's a bold decision to go with an intermediate track. I would guess probably like a short track where everybody wrecked out, like Bristol.
I think it was. It was either it was Kansas. It has to be Kansas when everybody was wrecking left and right in that race.
All right, so we'll
look at
optimals. Vanderwall. Come on, Control F. What you doing? Can I not Control F when I've got it on full screen? Maybe not. Maybe my computer just doesn't want me to. Am I not hitting F? What is going on?
No. What? Oh, we're falling apart over here. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. I do appreciate the likes. I didn't even mention that.
It's like, I can't Control F with. Okay, it's working over there.
Oh,
all right, can I do find with? How do I get there without doing Control F?
Let's see. Insert tools has to be.
I don't even know how to do things without using the hotkeys. Or whatever. There, find. I don't want to replace, but see, it's not popping up. I wonder if I'm zooming in too much.
Yeah, shoot me the link and I'll find it for you.
There it is. I think I was just zooming in too much. Doesn't make any sense, but whatever. Vanderwall was not optimal ever. So.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate.
Cool story, bro. Yeah, he wasn't optimal ever. What are we talking about? There was a race where he had a good race.
He finished. Here, let me look at his finish.
Here we go. So I can pull up value this way. And so 4 times he was a value driver, which means he had a top 20 score and was below 7,000. So the first Bristol race, he had scored the 19th most points. Not really, barely worth mentioning. Pocono, where I think everyone wrecked, he still only managed 16th most fantasy points. You know, it's pretty bad when Dexter Bean scores the 9th most points and you can't get better than 16.
How is he not optimal at? I guess it just didn't work out because at Texas, the race I was thinking of, he started 29th, finished 21st. And I guess it just still didn't work.
Texas race, he didn't even score top 20. Roval, 13th most fantasy points. And then the last race of the year, Phoenix, 18th most fantasy points. Yeah, he sucked.
I gotta stop playing him, man. I gotta stop going back to that well.
Well, since we're talking about bad plays, let's pull up the wrecker and see how many times. I don't think she was optimal ever, and I don't think that she was. I would say maybe 3 times. That's probably too much. That she was a value play, meaning that she had a top 20. Well, okay, well, it's right in front of the screen if you're not looking. So technically, I'm wrong. She was optimal in the Daytona race.
Yes.
Count that. But how many times other than that do you think she was a value play, meaning that she was obviously she's always below $7,000? But how many times did she score a top 20 DFS points?
Top 20. That's. I gotta say 2.
Okay, I'll say 3, but I know it's 2. So optimal-wise, there's the one time at Daytona. That doesn't count. Value-wise, Daytona. The next weekend at Las Vegas, 14th most fantasy points. And then, so I'm right 3 times. Oh. Daytona Road Course, she still ended up with 16th most fantasy points despite wrecking at the end of that race. That play worked out. Why am I beating myself up over that? Oh, man, I'm going to start playing Decker more.
Oh, man. And I guess I was too mean to her.
Right, 2 times are right because it's counting down here as the 4th. So 3 times, but really it was only 2 times. So because of the way I've got the formula set up, 23% of the time, that's not terrible, really. It's much better than your Vanderwall crap. You want
that's better than I thought.
Play. So 23% of the time she hit as value. Now I get that that's a little bit inflated because of the Daytona race, but we don't have to be that harsh on Natalie Decker. Now, meanwhile, Cody Vanderwall, who ran a lot of races, was valued. See, I don't have the numbers in here exactly the way that I should, but whatever. We can figure it out real quickly. So how many times did he hit value-wise?
I'd play him at like 4,600, 4,700. He has to hit value at least.
4 times. He hit 4 times last year. How many races was he in? He was in about every race.
Yeah, he did 30. He did 30 last year.
So what did we, 4 times and 30?
He finished on the lead lap 3 races. That's incredible.
That's great. So 430 equals 13%. So 23% for Natalie wins that one. Both pretty bad plays, though.
13%, 1 out of 10 lineups. Sounds like I'm going to go back to that well 1 out of 10 times.
Man.
I don't know. He's so cheap. I think
his defense, I guess this is not completely fair because we're talking about drivers being priced below 7K, and Snyder and Sieg were rarely below 7K. And still, they only hit in this, whatever. That's kind of rough. You can't really count that. But
who else? Do you think
12 times?
Who was that?
Jesse Little was a top 20 score below $7,000 12 times. That really has to make the Landon Castle play look very encouraging.
Mm-hmm. And that's him starting. That's
a good
top
for Ryan Vargas, who seems to be pretty talented in the few races that we've seen Vargas run over the last handful of years. Looks competent.
How many times did you hit value? 2?
10 times, Joe Graff.
Oh, no.
You believe that? This is interesting, though. This is JD Motorsports, JD Motorsports, JD Motorsports. And then Mike Harmon.
You know, Chad hitting it 8 times. Yeah.
Man. That's really strange that. And then you look at the Mario Gosselin cars and not that great. BJ,
you know, this shows more. Sorry, I keep talking over you. This shows more valuable information than I first thought it would.
David Starr was pretty good. He didn't run very many races. Justin Haley. Now, the reason he's on here is because a couple times, I don't know how many times he was priced below 7K. I need to run the data like I have over here where I count the number of times.
Mm-hmm.
But I was lazy, obviously, and I had to do that. But you see, Haley, you remember last year where Haley was like starting second, was priced at $6,300, and he still worked a couple times. Because starting up front, you didn't really need to score it because no one else was scoring.
He would just hold his position.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times with the Xfinity Series, especially with the way the qualifying was set up, no one could score anyway. You got Ryan Sieg starting 8th. Well, he can't do any better than that. You got like Josh Williams starting 14th. He's not good. Like everyone's kind of just locked into the same spot. And so it really didn't hurt you to take Justin Haley at 6,400, even if he lost a couple spots. It was just that there wasn't any place differential home runs out there. There never are in the Xfinity Series, and I doubt we'll see very many this year either. Like you'll know the guys, obviously, when it comes. We're like, all right, AJ Allmendinger starting 31st or whatever, jam them in. But for the most part, you had like the guys from 14th to 20th. It was pretty obvious, like, all right, that guy's not even on the board. There were times where we were playing Jesse Little starting freaking 14th. BJ McLeod at those first Darlington race was starting like 16th, but he was $4,500 and he worked. They can't score any points. They can't go anywhere.
I'd really like to see the optimal or the dominator points for the dominators in those BJ McLeod, Jesse Little lineups. Do you know if you have that?
Which
just any of them that like BJ McLeod fit into.
All right. So the Darlington race where BJ McLeod, I think Kyle Busch is going to be your guy. Let's see. Darlington 1. Kyle Busch is, I got to remember to pull some of these notes out of here. Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe, because they kneecap Kyle Busch with a penalty. I can't remember. That opens the door. I mean, Kyle Busch has to start in the non-preferred group at the very end. He has to start in the back of the field. I'm pretty sure they hit him with a penalty too. Let's see. Best car. Yeah, NASCAR kneecapped him, busted him speeding for .02 over.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And he still almost came back and won the race. But at the end, he had to restart on the bottom in the second row. And even with that, he's still able to just almost pass Chase Briscoe. Briscoe hangs on and gets, the dramatic win. He's crying, all that stuff. Great, awesome. Who cares? He gets a bunch of points. Busch gets a bunch of points. Then it's Jeremy Clements starting 30th at 7,100. We would call that chalk. Joe Graff in your optimal lineup starting 36th to 5,900. that's not that crazy of a play considering he is in that Bobby Dollar car. So him finishing 19th, it's a little bit better than probably. I mean, at that point of the season, he was still not very good. And at the end of the season, he was still not very good. But it wasn't too far from his running position. Timmy Hill coming off that iRacing win, starting 28th at 5,700, way too cheap, especially considering he was in a pretty decent car. Didn't live up to our expectations, but didn't kill us.
Let's see. He was in the Hattori car. I think I got to stop playing minimum price guys in Xfinity.
The 61.
Yeah, I got to stop playing. I think that's the only reason I played Vanderwall so much, and I got to stop doing that because I see him at 46 and I see stuff like this happen, and I'm like, oh, it's going to work.
The one that surprised most people was BJ McLeod, starting 13th, finishing 15th, and at 4,600. It was, and I remember talking about this. We probably talked about it on the podcast, thinking like, can you really play BJ McLeod starting 13th? Is it in play? Let me see if I can pull up.
It's crazy that he even had 27 points. There's no way I projected him for that many.
No, I mean I could look at the notes from that race. I don't want to go that deep, but what I do want to look at is the lap by lap from that race, because if I remember correctly, he was just in the back cruising. Let's see, which is really tilting. Like these guys are just out there playing games. All right, so at the Darlington Race, where's BJ? Yeah, look.
Yeah, he just ran fast, man.
Drops in the back. Because he knows that they get the stupid competition caution coming up. And he's just running here and then 20. He's like, who cares? And even fades back. Who knows what he's doing at this point? I think we got a stage break right there. And he's running in the back. I'm assuming we get a stage break. And he just decides, like, all right, I'm going to start running.
They're fast people. Oh, my gosh.
Walk his way up to 17th. And just there it is.
Oh, that's BS, man. That's BS. That's so stupid.
And we probably played in our lineup. So if we're being real cheap, let's see. I'm sure we played someone who did. Colby Howard was somebody that we thought could run well. He was starting in the back at 5,100. Like, who are you going to play? Colby Howard in JD Motorsports car, who looked kind of decent, starting 31st. On the clearly the play was Colby Howard, or the popular play. I won't say the play because obviously BJ McLeod worked.
See, BJ.
This lineup. So who else? I think there was another guy. I already remember because some of these cars just broke down a lap in this Darlington race.
Yeah.
So Snyder wreck. He wasn't on. Jesse Little probably no. Where's the guy? There's Vanderwall, who I don't think he would have been on the board starting for Stephen Light starting 37th. No, we knew who he was going to park. Where's the guy? Castle. I didn't even know Castle was in that race. There's the guy right there that burned us. I don't know if you remember this one. Yeah. So Colin Garrett in that Sam Hunt Racing car, starting 39th at 5,200. They had that great race at Homestead the year before. I think, the worry was like, all right, they've never really raced this car that much. But the race that they ran at Homestead, man, they looked really good. He's starting 39th. He's 5,200. And the freaking car broke down. And he didn't kill you. I mean, basically did. Straight punt, but that opened the door for the BJ McLeod type of lineup.
When did
Bassett had another situation too? Bassett was going to be a guy, and he had some sort of mechanical issue. Bailey Curry, I believe, had a mechanical issue as well. He was going to be a popular play, starting 35th. What do I got here? Yeah, this is his tweet. Ran an entire Xfinity race without brakes.
Oh.
Yeah, let's go kill your lineups. Starting 35th, $4,800. What was BJ McLeod? $4,600. So clearly, you're going to play Bailey Curry in that spot. Still finished 27th though somehow. Or no, he finished 33rd. God, that kills you. 15 fantasy points. How many did BJ McLeod have? 27.
And see, oh my gosh, he got those last positions.
I mean, all he had to do was finish, 26th?
Yeah.
And he outscores BJ. No, he didn't even have to do that. 27th.
And
all
he
breaks.
Yeah.
You give him breaks, and he's in the optimal lineup. But he didn't have breaks. And BJ McLeod ends up in there.
And BJ's in 16th with 2 to go. He's in 17th with 10 to go. He's in 18th with
pretty embarrassing when McLeod can go out there and do nothing the entire race and like, I'm going to go ahead and decide to race a little bit. And people have got nothing for him. Like, oh, God, here comes BJ. Get out of his way. Embarrassing.
That's
no problem getting past Williams, LeBay, Herbst, Graf, Brandon Jones. Where did Brandon Jones finish? He must have had an issue. Yeah, it looks like he had some sort of tire issue right here on lap 101. Ray Black Jr., where'd you go, Ray? We miss you, bud.
Yeah, poor guy fell off the
That's
the earth.
in the car.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else to talk about? At least we covered some. I'm doing a terrible job of looking at these comments. Paint the wall.
I've been I brought that up earlier. Yeah.
That's what it should be.
Yeah. That's funny.
Oh my God.
We're gonna have fun this year.
Leave Natalie alone.
We did pretty good. You know, we had a lot of people engaged. I thought nobody was going to watch tonight, honestly. So I'm quite happy with how.
I'm going to go back and look at that Talladega race because I'm for sure that there were hints throughout almost like this thing was like orchestrated. I remember them talking about that dumb line throughout the race, and then sure enough, it becomes the defining moment of the race. Charlotte Road Course, he put 39. Daytona Road Course, for only 2 races, she had positive place differential. I guess you got to play Natalie at Daytona is, I think, the lesson that we have learned here.
Well, Norm Benning, he's running the full season this year.
So that's another thing. Like, have I just completely misread the American economy when Norm Benning is able to run a full? Like, am I just too pessimistic? I feel like I'm in some sort of dream when I read that Norm Benning is going to be able to run a full race. How is this happening? I thought people didn't have jobs anymore. I thought everything was collapsing and falling apart. Someone needs to explain this to me. Someone needs to explain to me how the finances of stock car racing are like the balance sheet is perfect. Everything, they're all in the black. How did this happen?
They went from not being able to make car counts, even when they were taking 40 cars last year, to
borrowing a bunch of money, and they're taking that fiat currency and putting it into assets that they think are going to appreciate, and so they're just spending it before inflation catches up with them, and then they'll just pay it all back with they'll pay back their loans with fiat currency.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point. These guys are like Austrian economists here running stock car racing all of a sudden.
Well, he brings up a good point that Ray Cicerelli is bringing in more people.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Like last year,
Cicerelli was going to get. I thought he got kicked out. Remember that?
Well, he was going to quit because they banned the Confederate flag. He was like, "I ain't going to race no more." And then
I know, and people are like, "Good riddance." That's the whole thing. And then you look at Ray's still racing. I thought there was it's just like it didn't even happen. It's one of these situations where I guess we just made it up in our head. But I could have swore there was a thing where he either quit or people were running him out. You can't get canceled in NASCAR.
He just showed back up, and then he had the Trump train with him.
The other weird thing was you had that guy who was the fake Trump racer and then actually turned into a race, like Vines.
Yeah.
He used to just show up at these conventions in the fire suit. He wasn't really a race car driver, but no one knew it. And then all of a sudden, he actually is a race car driver. Wait a second. I thought you were like the fake dude. You're actually running in these races every week. What is going on?
Well, he's like Clint Hoff in the Cup Series. He just kind of showed up. He bought out the ride that Castle did.
Josh Bilicki's got a freaking full-time Cup Series ride. Like I'm surprised. Like, well, Bilicki's hanging around the Xfinity Series, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, I'm a full-time Cup driver. Huh? You could barely complete a road course. You destroy me every single time, and you're able now to compete full-time in the Cup Series. All right. I don't know how that works. Garrett Smithley's a full-time driver. Like, I don't know how that one happened either. It's weird.
Rick Ware is, I mean, he's doing what I said he would. He's putting money into the Cup Series now, but it's.
Yeah, they're going to expand to 43 cars. You know, it's just he's the entire field. It is crazy.
Do you really think they're going to do that?
I don't know. No one knows. Why not? I mean, if they weren't going to, wouldn't they have already said that by now? Like, the fact that we still don't know, doesn't that lead you to believe that they probably are going to expand the field? What's the argument against it? Like, oh, the drivers is going to hurt their charter for one race. Does it really even hurt the charter? Isn't it good for the sport overall to have more cars on the track? Doesn't it look good?
That's the whole reason why they shouldn't have started in the first place.
I mean, I would understand, like in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, where sometimes you've got a bunch of cars out there they're going to run 2 laps, and they're just white cars and white trucks with nothing on them. Like, yeah, maybe you don't, but the Cup Series seems to be pretty sponsored up. Like, even when they're not, you look at the BK Racing during the last couple of years with that frog water crap. I think it was frog water. With I think Greg Gaulding was running those cars.
Yeah,
they had no sponsorship. Basically, they were just giving the guys free water at the track.
Or
it's like, all right, here's a case of water. It's water. It's free.
They were running the Dr. Pepper
water hose. It's not a sponsorship. That's the worst. Yeah, but we'll give you free bottles of water. Can we at least get like a free Red Bull? I mean, free water, okay. But then BK Racing went bankrupt, or they were already in bankruptcy. Only in NASCAR.
Yeah. Let me see what Toby Chrissy has as his 500 entry fee or entry list. Let's look at these names.
And Daniel Suarez is in that new car, which used to be
car. Yeah,
it's Pitbull, man. It's just when you see these different people jumping in, that's what really. And someone tweeted me like, "Yeah, is this a Ponzi scheme?" All of the earmarks of a Ponzi scheme are all of a sudden there's all these teams, and all of a sudden there's people who really have no business or have no idea that like just the same thing that you would see with what was the guy that ran the scheme with the Mets? It wasn't the Mets, but I think some of the Mets ownership fell for it. Bernie Madoff. Like, all these people are giving this money to this guy, like from all kinds of different sectors and important people, like Kevin Bacon, who lost everything to Bernie Madoff.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he had to start doing a bunch of terrible movies. Broke. Bernie Madoff scammed him. You see Mayweather all of a sudden in on it. You see Pitbull in on it. Jordan's now in NASCAR. All these different people are investing in this thing. Like, you guys sure you know what you're investing in? Do you know, like, this stuff is barely even on TV anymore. There's no one, like, even before COVID, the stands were empty. I don't know.
They came out of nowhere.
It's very strange. I don't know what's going on. Some sort of like advanced money laundering schemes going on to what it is. But it's not too like. What, Mr. Beast will probably have a car not too long. I know he sponsored something last year, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't be surprised to see Mr. Beast, have a team soon. If that dude's got fake burger stands or whatever. I think they're real, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah, I think they opened up one here in Greensboro. I thought it was just a gimmick, but it's not. I think he really has these burger stands.
Well, speaking of all the sponsorship, Kyle Larson still doesn't have a sponsor.
Does he not?
He does not have a sponsor right now. I know they have like Valvoline patches on his fire suit, but he just has the Hendrick Cars logo on his fire suit.
I mean, it's going to take a bold sponsor to go along. Like, it's probably not the time to. I don't know. You know what, though? He won't be the first driver to not really have any real sponsorships, but I'm not surprised corporate America is not willing to step out on that branch yet. And he's went on his, forgiveness tour, and I think he's done everything he needs to do. And I don't think he should be banished from society. Mm-hmm. But I understand like these corporate press aren't going to, or corporations aren't going to. They don't want to be involved anyway in NASCAR. So, boy, how's he going to make that work? They got to have a sponsor. They had an idea they were going to get sponsorship before they signed him.
David Land on YouTube had a theory that because Hendrick signed him on a 1-year contract.
That's all they gave him?
Yeah, it's a 1-year contract, right? I believe. I could be wrong. I could be saying something incorrect. But the theory is because since Hendrick has to buy all new cars next year, he's going to give Larson all the leftovers that they don't use. And he's the best driver that was available. And he's just like, here, run this. If you get sponsors, if you get prize money, it works. If not,
So then it leads us to, we're back down the other road. Like, is NASCAR dead? Like, how?
Yeah.
We have all these conflicting data points that, oh, wow, the sport looks like it's really healthy. And then you look at, but Kyle Larson's going to be running jalopies out there.
Yeah. He
might as well be Rick Ware's 7th team.
And people don't watch the races. The ratings are in the toilet.
I know, but they'll spin. They spun that all last year about, oh, it's a great year. I love the graphic of where they had something like top brands according to Zoomers. I don't know if you saw that graphic. NASCAR was the 4th most popular brand amongst Zoomers. How is that possible? Why is Generation Z like? But then you look at the other stuff, their top brands was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of sus. I don't know if I want to believe that.
Yeah, I can't make any sense. But it was the only sport around, and they still weren't pulling massive numbers. So if it's the only sport on TV during a pandemic and people still aren't watching, you got some problems. Mm-hmm. But don't tell Pitbull that, because then he might not sponsor. But who knows?
Who do you think leaves first, Jordan or Pitbull?
Well, I don't know, man. Jordan's a terrible owner. He is the Charlotte Hornets are awful. He drafts worse than anyone. Living down here and watching him put together a team and hire coaches and fire coaches and hire coaches and fire. He just can't do it. Mm-hmm. He's not good at it. He wasn't the guy who invented Jordan Brand. He had nothing to do with any of it. They just used his likeness and he got rich. If they would have let him run Nike, they would have went broke too. He was the greatest basketball player of all time. There's no doubt to that. But the other stuff he touches, he's a terrible gambler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just loses everything. It's night and day compared to Cuban down here.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him stay in it and just burn money. The thing with Pitbull was that team's run by Justin Marks. Where did Justin Marks get money? I don't even know how he gets into cars. He's another guy who reeks of Ponzi schemes. Mm-hmm. Here's another thing that's been completely dropped. There's just been too much news over the last year. But remember when Brian Vickers' wife was connected to Epstein?
Oh, yeah.
What happened to that one? We just memory hold that. She and he were a part of
that.
Yeah. Alleged. I don't even know if we even have to say alleged anymore, but we don't even hear. I don't know.
Nobody talks about it.
Where did she go? Is she like living, in some, is she, if they taken her to some secret location too? That whole, it's a really, no one ever talks about that. And then, again, there was too much news, and I think people just didn't want to go anywhere near that story.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was on the payroll and worked with that Jelaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
We're gonna get canceled from YouTube now talking about this. They're gonna misinformation or disinformation. We're starting some sort of conspiracy fantasy NASCAR podcast. But if anyone out there has any information on the Vickers story, I thought that was real strange that one just went away.
Well, same thing with Kurt Busch's girlfriend.
She got she came back out and was not. She won a civil suit, or I think was found not guilty, or charges were dropped
After all that,
yeah, after she was supposedly a CIA hitman.
like what? Remember that, man?
So he chokes her out. I don't think there's any doubt that happened. Well, allegedly, we gotta be careful. And so NASCAR was ready to just basically cancel him like that. Remember?
Well, he got
from the Daytona 500. He got pulled from a bunch of stuff, and then all of a sudden, it's like, nah, it's okay. Like, wait a second, how's it okay that quickly? It was less than a month. All of a sudden, and this was a little bit before Me Too, so he got kind of lucky there. Because if this would have been a year or so later, he'd be done.
Well, you got to remember, just before that, he was going through the Phoenix Racing stuff, and he was rebranding himself as the Outlaw, and that faded really quick. His legal team was like, "You got to get rid of this name, dude."
Yeah, he did that, and then the race he comes back. He's supposed to win at Fontana, and they rig the race so he can't win. Yeah. You go back, you watch that race. He's got it won. They keep throwing these fake cautions to prevent him from winning because they can't have the dude who has been accused of assaulting his girlfriend in the infield winning the very next race where he comes back. But then and then he testifies that, oh no, she's a CIA assassin.
Mm-hmm. She was attacking me. It was me. I was in danger, not her.
But then they find all this garbage on her, and then they basically make her look like a bad guy. Mm-hmm. And all right. And then you never really get a conclusion. Did she just make that up? We don't even really know what happened. That was a weird series of events. But NASCAR.
I mean, Stewart right here. I can't believe that story passed as quick as it did.
Oh, man. Well, he had one every year for a couple seasons, and then when that dirt racing thing happened. Boy, you want to see bad tweets and bad comments. You bring up that, and you're one of the number one enablers of that with inappropriate comments and tweets.
I think
it's really I cannot believe that was just
washed over.
I think it's terrible that boy, as soon as they found marijuana in his system, God, that's it.
Yeah.
This kid is always a drug addict and he deserves it. But there was no question to it whatsoever. As soon as they found that, they just ruined that kid's image. Yeah. And also, but that doesn't change. Uh-huh. Okay, so what if this kid had marijuana in his system? What does that have anything to do with what Tony Stewart did with his vehicle?
Uh-huh.
But I guess it mattered.
As soon as that was, they were like, "All right, we're good. We won."
And he got right back, and it was just they don't even bring that stuff up anymore. They act like it never even happened.
Okay,
you didn't sponsor whatsoever. How do you not lose your sponsors?
As someone born in the late 90s, I never got to watch him play, but I really like O.J. Simpson on Twitter. And how he constantly, in every post, someone refers to that, but nobody dares to say it about Stewart. Nobody dares to say it about Stewart. And I'm a Stewart fan, and I'm the only one who says it. I'm like, come on.
It's just because the NASCAR fans just aren't that funny. They're not that subversive. But, in O.J. Simpson circles and just regular sports fans are brutal, and the comments are hilarious. And what's better is like you can anticipate exactly what that makes it even more funny. But yeah, I think NASCAR fans are either just too conservative, too uptight, or I don't know. They just aren't funny. There's not a lot of good humor. People don't appreciate it. You start making those jokes, people just don't want it. They don't find it funny.
Yeah,
they do. I think it's a little like the Southern Baptist stuff. They think it's hilarious, but they know they can't say it out loud. They can't let you know that they're laughing at your wildly inappropriate joke. And so if everybody just pretends not to laugh, then the reality is then it's not going to be funny. But yeah, there's great opportunities to hammer Tony Stewart or make fun of him, but they just act. It's crazy. Like we're talking about Kyle Larson not able to get a sponsor, and yeah, he did a terrible thing, but he didn't kill anybody.
He didn't kill someone.
I mean, what are we doing? When again, I'm not condoning racism, and I'm not trying to justify it, but Tony Stewart, at least in terms of the civil court, is responsible for killing another person. I don't know if we get in trouble for saying that.
It's not. We're not.
The criminal case got thrown out, but I think they settled in civil court.
Yeah, but Stewart paid him a lot. That's all he did.
The guy's dead, and Larson said one stupid thing, and he's begged for forgiveness. He can't get a sponsor. Tony Stewart is, just doing whatever he wants.
Yeah. And even, look, I'm not the biggest Larson fan to start off with. And I'm like, come on, help him out. He's done enough to.
Well, I don't think they need to help him out. It's sponsorship. You either get it or you don't get it. I don't think anyone needs to do him any favors. If you think that it's going to be a wise investment, then go for it. But then again, who thought it was a wise investment? Oh, yeah, this Tony Stewart guy just murdered somebody. Let's invest in him.
Oh, what's that? Mobile One?
Well, manslaughter. Let's say manslaughter. I think he was charged with manslaughter, not necessarily first or second degree murder. But it was real. Like you look at the court documents and like how they break down exactly what happens. It was really interesting to see. Like they were plotting out step by step and exactly when he accelerates and all that stuff. Boy, it did not look good for Tony Stewart.
It did. And even as a person who's been around sprint cars my entire life, it was a bad situation. I don't know. I mean, the video footage that we have is pretty shaky cam, but mistakes were made on both sides, clearly.
Well, the thing is, you get all these reports from people that are at the track. And I remember I was at I can't remember. I was at a race, and it was one of those dudes like, yeah, I was there that night, which I think probably 1 million people were apparently at that track that night.
Near Watkins Glen.
I remember what story the guy told me. I think it was in support of Tony Stewart, but you get all these like firsthand accounts. And it becomes part of folklore. It's really weird. Yeah, I was there the night that it happened. And yeah, no, you weren't. You weren't in a dirt track on a Tuesday night in upstate New York. Oh, yeah, I was.
I chose that race just because he was there. I was watching him the whole time.
Yeah. Tony Stewart, he races like 300 times a year. It's nothing special. You didn't go out of your way to watch him do one of his many dirt track races.
Yeah. Or meanwhile, on the opposite side, people wanted Kenny Schrader's head after 2001. Like, Kenny did nothing. I felt so bad for him.
You know what? So speaking of wildly inappropriate, you watched the video where the guy like breaks it down and talks about Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s not, or Dale Sr.'s not dead.
Oh, yeah, don't worry. Yeah, we're there, man.
The guy, I think the guy is from I don't know. He's got a thick accent, and he's breaking this thing down. He's like, it's so crazy.
Well, there's
It's like, oh, he's moving the steering wheel, and he's like, oh my god, like the internet is not a good place for people. We sit here and talk about this, so we are absolutely part of the problem in saying inappropriate things, but we're not nearly as bad as the guy who is breaking down the video and explaining that Dale Sr. never really died. I don't even know what the guy says the motivation is for the conspiracy. I don't know.
Yeah, I watched that one too. He was like he wanted to get away from Teresa. He said he had enough. That's like, are you stupid? Come on, man.
These guys. He's living in Cuba with Tupac
and Elvis
and Epstein.
Yeah. Oh, and Epstein, yeah, too. Yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to bring back. I think the reason Stewart's incident got washed over is because that was the same week that Robin Williams passed away, and so everybody was focused on that.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, man, it's hard to remember all these things and keep them squared away.
Yeah,
but I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, the Kyle Larson story was like a national story for like 5 minutes. I don't remember the national media going on too much about, Kyle Larson said the N-word. I remember it was a thing, but like, the way it is now, news only lasts about 30 seconds anymore. We move on to the next mayhem that takes place. Like even the Bubba Wallace noose thing, that was like the world was going to end. And then it's over. And like, are we going to talk about that anymore? No, we're moved on. Like that was kind of a big deal, and like we made it into a really big deal. And what really happened? And you never got any answers. And then, like people just made it up, and they act like because the thing was like you felt like you got some sort of resolution, but then you saw like one people saying, "Well, no, this is what the resolution was," and then another group would say, "No, well, this was actually what happened," and both sides just ignored each other. Going forward, we had two realities of what happened at Talladega, and we were at no time did the NASCAR media, any media, decide like, well, here's actually what happened. No, they just allowed like, all right, we've now just created one side believes this, one side believes this, and that's it. Like, what? It's probably best that we just move on, but it's very strange that that happened. Gosh,
last so wild
year.
No wonder I was so tired.
I guess. I mean, in the long run, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what any of the takeaways are, but like I'm glad there's no violence. I'm glad no one got hurt. I'm glad that Bubba Wallace has a full-time ride. I mean, I don't want to say like, well, everything worked out because I don't think anything's connected or whatever. But I don't know. I guess the best thing is just to just keep forgetting what happened the day before. Forget what happened last week. Just completely erase your brain. That's what we do. We just reset our brains every day. And I think we do that in DFS too. Like we probably reset maybe too often. I don't know. Maybe it is useful. But memory holding everything. And it's hard to go back and look at some of these races and remember everything that happened. That's why I've been trying to do my best to take notes. But, man, if you don't write notes and go back over these races, there's no way you remember this crap. Just like I'm thinking about this Talladega double line thing, and I just can't completely figure it out. And it's irking me. Like, I should have a better memory of that.
Yeah, I can't think of that one.
We know the end, but I really feel like there was more to it. But can't remember it.
Or I'll end on this. I think NASCAR rigs way more races now than they ever have.
So if that's the case, then I would understand why Pitbull and Mayweather and these guys are getting in on it. If the whole thing's rigged and set up, then yeah, it's a smart investment, right?
I think they are. And people call me crazy, but I think that's how it is.
Well, I mean, they definitely. I don't know. Be careful with any of this.
Yeah.
I think they can set things up to work to their advantage, but I don't think that they're completely.
Yeah, maybe not like, hey, this is what's going to happen. We take the green, but at the end of the race, if something could be more beneficial for the sport, I think.
I'll give them credit though. They don't. At times where I think they definitely could really, pull the wheel in one direction, they don't do it. At Phoenix, they didn't. And maybe they just, things were going their way with Chase Elliott, so they just completely hands off.
Yeah.
But they didn't meddle that much throughout the race. Could have. They could have, wanted a spectacular shootout at the end. Maybe they would have said, like, oh, we're not just completely satisfied with Elliott winning. We need Elliott to win in majestic fashion.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that. All right, let's close this thing down. No one is watching. No one's going to be.
We got this is the most viewers we've had. That's why I keep going. We have 8 people watching.
They're not watching. It's on the background tab.
They're listening. They're listening to us. They like us.
Yeah, well, they're listening to us say some random conspiratorial nonsense. That's
like these guys are lunatics. I'm not
waiting for us to say something inappropriate, like, oh, they're close. They're ready to screw up, and we can cancel them. Oh, yeah. And I don't know if I really want to give that to them.
Yeah.
Do you have any more conspiracies that you want to throw out before we shut this down?
Don't ask me that. We'll be here for another 3 hours. Let's see. Trying to think of ones that are short. Well, okay. Do you want to talk?
Or actually, we don't even need NASCAR to do this. Let me look this real before. So NASCAR is not traded, right?
No, it's privately owned.
Yeah, but ISC, did they pull that off? I don't know if they ended up selling the NASCAR or not. Trying to think, right?
And I think they did.
Did they buy it? Did they bring it in? Because that used to be publicly traded.
Well, that's why the final's at Phoenix now. Because they
what is the name of that? Wasn't it? I thought it was ISC. They owned Daytona and
International Speedway Corporation. What
was it? Because what I was going to say is, I just thought of, like, the International Speedway Corp. I thought they were NASCAR. I think they acquired it. Crap. Because what I was thinking was, like the Reddit folks have completely probably destroyed GameStop. I don't know if you've been following that.
Yeah,
by those lunatics just basically playing games, but it's not a game. There's going to be real damage, and
they're gonna. Oh man, that's gonna be.
Might just kill GameStop. But
everything's a meme.
Great is if those crazy Reddit fools that were doing those Wall Street bets, if ISC were still public, God, I would love to see them randomly bet the thing up and then crash it. I don't know what GameStop is at the moment, but I imagine. Let me see if I can pull up the GameStop.
Probably not looking good.
Let's see, it's still up on the year, I imagine, right? I mean, this is ridiculous.
For the extra like, by the way, whoever did that, now we're at 7 likes.
I haven't read enough about this, but there's no value in GameStop anymore.
Yeah, it's
Blockbuster Video. What are you people? I don't know.
I tell you what, if I somehow
is it up on the day still? God,
yeah, it should be.
Clowns doing it is. Just go up.
It's gonna be the worst crash.
COVID has been such a nightmare, and a lot of this is going to be blamed on Dave Portnoy, and rightfully so, for pushing all these crazy penny stock nonsense. Oh man, this thing's going to plummet. Also, Elon Musk has got in on this as well.
Oh,
man, I gotta get caught up. I'm sorry. I don't even want to, man. So, but I've been saying this for years: is if you get Elon Musk into NASCAR, that could save it. So, he's got a lot more things to do that are probably slightly more significant, like getting us to a better planet. But
so I think we're going to see 2 drastically different roads within the next 10 years of current racing with combustion engines, and we're gonna see manufacturers start pulling out of those, and we're gonna see them focus primarily on e-racing and electric motors.
Yeah, they got to work on that and get that product up. I mean, it's all there, but the thing is there a community? Is there a demand for it? I don't think there's not much of a demand for racing. Dover is publicly traded. Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, it's
see if we can get that thing shot through the roof, and then we can absolutely push this idea that NASCAR's turned into a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
So is that it? What was the stock DVD? Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, Dover Motorsports. Oh man, it's $2.54. It's a perfect prime penny stock to get this thing on the Wall Street bets.
Up and up.
We gotta start pushing this.
Oh
man, we gotta push this thing up and then jump ship.
We're gonna get in so much trouble. Good Lord, we can't be. You can't say that on a stream. What are you?
It's an SEC violation.
No.
It's actually up over the last year, which is crazy because they've got one freaking race.
Well, they have the casino there, but I don't know.
Yeah, the gate, like people are shorting it, but like people are fighting back for. I don't understand what the reason is. Like, I mean, I understand why you would short GameStop, but why are they doing it just to like prove them wrong? Eventually, the thing is going to collapse, and the people that are shorting it are going to win. There's just no way you can inflate the price forever. They're just not worth that. I mean, I could be wrong, right? I'm not an expert investor, but I got to imagine well, I mean, it could happen.
But what about that and how Bitcoin's been going up and down like wildfire last couple?
Well, the other thing with unless you were pumping and dumping, and I'm more worried with Bitcoin, like big banks are pumping and dumping, but I don't know. The banks they're holding it as an asset, which makes me feel pretty happy. Or like one theory is that like with Janet Yellen and them not really liking Bitcoin, the government could easily solve their Bitcoin problems by simply just buying it, which would be great for the people who own Bitcoin. That would be terrible for like the long run of Bitcoin. But if all of a sudden they jump in and just start buying and buying and buying, it'll push it to $100,000 like that in seconds. Now, so yeah, Dover 254. I don't know why it's. Yeah, man, we gotta get this thing rolling.
We'll have to keep our Dover stock. We'll have to pay that throughout the year.
I mean, I don't even know. I'm not like. Is it a good investment? I would say no. Like they have one race. Yeah, what does Dover have going for it? I don't know. We can make this happen. Just trying to figure out how you start it, though.
Watch the DFS industry single-handedly raise Dover's stock price.
So their quarter three earnings last year were higher than I think normal. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. It'd be interesting to look into that. We gotta pump this Dover stock. They're one stupid race. All right, we gotta wrap this thing up.
We gotta end that. Anything else you wanna add?
No, just that if anyone has any ideas about when like a regular schedule for this would be or what we can do, and if they have any suggestions, like what people want to hear or know about, let us know. Things that we can change. And I know that I could put nothing on the screen the entire time, but that's just because I didn't really have anything to pinpoint. And in the future, we'll have a lot more of a direction. We'll have specific data points that we're looking at for that specific weekend, so the visual should be better. And all right, here we go. That's Tuesday. Okay, so I guess I'm already late to the Dover.
Yeah.
I'm late to everything.
No.
Can't believe they were already pumping Dover. Like, why is Dover going up? Why? Why? I don't know. Like, this reality is collapsing. The economy is doing well. The economy is falling apart. The economy is doing GameStop is going to be in charge of the government soon.
When the bubble bursts this year, it's going to be horrible.
Just keep inflating this thing forever.
It's going to be. They can't do that.
It's never going to collapse.
They're going to make it worse. When it does, it's going to destroy everything. It's going to be bad.
No, and yet here we are just laughing and recording a NASCAR podcast while we know that imminent doom is ahead of us.
Yeah.
Oh, well. At least Dover went up twice. They're
And GameStop's getting, its last good run for a while.
It could be. No, Dover going up just because NASCAR's coming up, but I don't know.
Yeah. Do you want to? How do you want to do the Cup Series this year? Just on Sundays? Do you want to try and do more for Xfinity and Truck Series? Because I know a lot of people watch us for that stuff as well.
Yeah, well, I would like to have set in Sunday morning, at least for Cup, and then we'd see how the weeks are going, see what people like. And obviously, I love talking about the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. It's just those schedules change week to week, and it's more like figuring out our schedules for those given weeks too. And we'll see. I would like to do stuff for Truck and Xfinity as well, as long as we can fit it in and as long as people want it. I don't want to change a bunch of schedule and no one really wants it. And, as long as we could, obviously the Cup Sunday morning, I think that's the easiest to make work. But the rest of it's going to be, everything's going to blow up. But then, how are you going to, I don't know. Everything does have to drop at some point, but at that point, what is money even worth? Thinking I need to invest in mining of hard metals.
Yeah, that's. Oh man.
Or not. Maybe that's.
I've
got some Bitcoin, but not enough to really matter too much, and not enough to worry about it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. It's going to be a rough year.
Maybe not. Maybe they just keep.
I hope not. I hope I'm wrong.
Down the road, yeah.
Well, we'll see. But yeah, we'll focus on getting stuff together for most Sundays, and obviously we're still going to do our own stuff. We're just trying to figure out where to come together and do the stuff live every week.
Yeah, live stuff. Yeah. All right,
cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, like I said, we kept 8 viewers the whole time. I know that's not just us two, so thank you. This is a success in my book.
Yeah, we said some pretty crazy stuff, unfortunately, but they're gonna have to sit. They're gonna have to, go through 2 hours to find the inappropriate stuff.
Yeah. It's all right. We're gonna give them more ammo as we go through the season. We'll see. Oh yeah, Xfinity is gonna be boring. But
I think Ty Gibbs will get probably some elite equipment, and at some of those races, I imagine where Ty Gibbs is running, he might also run, the ARCA race, which would be a bit of an advantage. I don't think Ty Gibbs looked. It's hard to judge what he did in the ARCA series last year because he just had such a better car. He wasn't really racing against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be at, I'm assuming, tracks where he's also pulling double duty, so he'll have extra reps. And I don't think that. Obviously the ARCA car is going to be a lot slower, a lot more downforce than the Xfinity car. But if Herbst can figure it out, I think Ty Gibbs can.
Yeah, he should be all right. I don't know what to think about all these teams, man. I can't wait for the first 3 weeks to see who really has and who doesn't.
Well, the problem we'll probably have is you look at last year with Tommy Joe Martins, who started a new team and had practice and had a lot of things, plenty of opportunities to work on his car, and he still blew his car up every single week. We're going to have so many failures in the Xfinity Series to start the season, especially with all these new teams, and you're not allowed to, go out and run 2 laps. You look again at Darlington, that first race back. Colin Garrett was the guy, and the car doesn't have to blow up. It could be something as small. Our brakes didn't work, like with Bailey Curry. Great, there went some chalk right there. So I think there's going to be a lot of chalky value plays. Like chalk value probably doesn't exist in the Xfinity Series. I wouldn't imagine at the beginning of the season until they get the cars completely, tuned up and worked out. Maybe even in the Truck Series a little bit too. Cup Series, I'm not so much worried because you don't have those chalky value. They just don't score any points,
Yeah, unless they could. We'll see how it goes this year. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they price Bubba Wallace and how they price some of these guys. All right.
Yeah, cool. Thank you guys for watching. We're gonna do this throughout the season and aiming for every Sunday morning right now. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for watching and everything. Find him at race4theprize.com. You can find me at Brandon Cruz DFS on Twitter and on Patreon.